Hey everybody.
Hey,
It's
good times.
welcome to Khyber Shards,
Woo.
5th edition, actual play set in the Eberron campaign world. We just recorded regular Khyber Shards.
That was anything but regular Khyber Shards, Philip.
It's true.
Why is it that every time we go down a path of absolutely shattering our world as we know it, I'm the guest on KSA for like old episodes. I have to act.
It's always it's always when we were finally like building up a backlog that we can, so we're not always on the verge of running out of episodes. Yeah. Okay. So real talk for the group. December is obviously a crazy time. All the more so for our good friend in the restaurant industry. So we have been working to build up some episodes so that we can afford to not feel so hectic in December as we go into holidays and that kind of thing. So I think right now, 4 episodes ahead of you, the listener, the viewer. So we are, and we just finished recording, so we're in a very different headspace. But it's Friday.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was very much a lot.
Unironically, it's all changed. Everything's different. When you guys see the episode that we're talking about, you're gonna know. Yeah. Oh, that's what they were being so extra about.
Whew, boy, it's gonna be good. I'm excited for that watch party.
They're also gonna know because they're gonna be like, "Hey, why is the entire cast in the watch party?"
Right.
You all don't ever show up all at the same time.
We might need a full cast KSA for this one.
I really think so. I really think that should be our first. That was
maybe. Anyway. But for now, we have some delightful and not heavy questions.
Remember when this game was fun?
But before we get to those questions, this episode that just aired is Pog finally getting to talk to the Echo.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, did you have any expectations of when you tried to talk to the Echo? Did you have any expectations of the Echo's identity up to that point? Because I've known that this is what the Echo was since you told me I could decide what the Echo was. A few of the details have shifted over time, but just the basic idea of a coalesced set of spirits drawn from the flame has been in my head for a long time. So I'm curious, to what degree did you have any expectation as to the identity of the Echo and your ability to talk to it?
Well, the aspect of the identity that I thought would be the most expected is still the part that's not necessarily answered. Mm-hmm. We know that there is someone of the collective who has selected me, but that wasn't told who, because the old identities were left and we are now who we are. So I think I realized it was going to go that route the first time we went to the Church of the Silver Flame. And I did not, I think more importantly than not guessing the identity, I didn't think you were going to have Minnie talk to me.
Okay.
I fully expected you to sit me there in silence. I was expecting humanity to be shown by Minnie in a different way, maybe for them to like sit on the foot of the bed and take up a more neutral pose than always standing. Mm-hmm. But not to answer. So answering, it stunned Colin to play. I was like, I don't know. I guess simple little Pog would ask the same questions that he has to the Silver Flame.
Right.
Like it's not ever been given an answer, more philosophy, which isn't exactly going to be my beautiful big guy's strong suit. So yeah, I was very surprised by that entire encounter. I really thought it was just kind of a funny idea
Yeah.
to talk to the Echo. Um, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that there is so much more behind it, and the idea of the amalgamation of souls being together really helps me as I've tried to, and we got that in this last session we played, try to flavor some of my abilities as not being just Mark, being whatever my connection is to the flame.
Mm-hmm.
I think has been that's a really cool thing, that especially for you to have planned since the beginning, to have very organically just worked in the way I like to tell a story, meeting your version of the story you want to tell. It's been satisfying, but also surprising.
Yeah. I have really enjoyed um, those interactions uh, between the simplicity of the way that Pog looks at the world
Mm,
and the very conceptual idea that the silver flame is, the very impersonal nature of the silver flame as a power, is a really interesting dichotomy, and it creates some really interesting interactions. So I'm also enjoying that a lot. And our first question kind of dovetails into this, and it is from Darren. Colin, does having Pog take actual paladin levels appeal to you?
yes. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, now for Darren, great question, and thank you for it. Remember, I'm the new guy, and
Mm-hmm.
even though we've been playing this game for a while, what I know is all that I know.
Yeah.
And that has expanded quite a bit through playing the game, but still, we're running now a 3-player game. And Baldur's Gate 3 was the first that I really started to expand into a lot deeper surface, a lot deeper exposure to larger scale D&D, and that was my first thought as we had that last conversation with the Silver Flame about what is good. Like, well, Pog as a person is going to need to be told what is evil then,
Mm,
because bad and evil aren't the same thing,
right.
and good and righteous aren't the same thing. Oh, I'm. I want you guys to remember I said that when you see. So, um, yeah, I'm definitely very interested in that. It's a conversation I have to have with Philip.
Sure.
But yeah, I just for that aspect alone is immediately where my mind went of like, oh, Pog who wants things shown to him or told him, um, having the ability to detect evil would be wonderful.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's very compelling. I also
Yeah.
worry about getting just several low levels though.
My Karlach in Baldur's Gate 3 is multiclassed into Paladin with
Yeah.
Barbarian, because you can still use spell slots to smite even when you're raging.
Oh.
And
Oh.
it creates some pretty impressive damage possibilities.
And we know I love to be killing.
uh, Laura inquires, what was going to happen if Ari failed his intelligence save for contacting the Forgotten Prince? Okay, so that spell, Contact Other Planes, has a condition that if you fail, that when you contact the other planes, because you're reaching your brain across your mind, across realities, you have to make an intelligence saving throw or suffer from madness. And so I would have probably paused, because I wasn't prepared in my notes for Ari to do this, because I didn't know they were going to try to. But I would have needed to pause so that I could make a list, and I'd have made a list of a mixture of really significant and really amusing things, and Ari would lose his memory of one of those things based on
Oh.
a die roll, because Eric loves random tables. And so, it might be like Ari temporarily loses the ability to speak in the past tense or something like that. Like just like something ridiculous that would make Eric go crazy for the next episode or so. Or something, really significant. Ari forgets who one of his friends is. Like just invert
Oh,
the curse.
right after he and Shade get together.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. So that would have been something with memory. And I would have made a list of a mixture of ones that would be really heavy and ones that would be just really funny. And had Eric roll. So that's how I would have handled it. And maybe that's how I'll handle it in the future. I'm really not sure. It will kind of depend on the moment, because there are definitely times where that spell might be used that it would be excessive to throw something really insane at them. So there you go.
Rad.
Yeah.
It's always disappointing when I hear about the what could have been.
Sure.
Even though in this case it would have probably been a massive inconvenience for at least a little while. It's really fun.
Well, yeah, and Eric commented during the episode that he kind of wishes he hadn't pushed just to see what would happen, because it would have been narratively amusing. And I get that. I've definitely allowed my character to fail in games for just to have the moment.
Right.
Yeah. So last week we got a question from Emily for Eric, or last KSA, in which she wanted to know if there was a live action adaptation of Khyber Shards as a high budget prestige television series. She didn't say that. I'm saying that. Who would play Ari? Darren says that, but for you. So who would play Ari in a live?
Nathan Lane. I will take no further questions at this time.
It's a musical.
Yes.
It's a Broadway
with lots
musical.
Of Fosse. It's going to be wonderful.
Oh no, obviously for Pog. Who would you cast as Pog?
That's a really good question. Can we just appreciate that we've gotten questions every week, and it's the first time this question's come up.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. It's a really good question. Okay, so I think it'd be really cool to have Christopher Judge play Pog. He's who did the voice and the motion capture for Kratos in the new video games. He's wonderful. But if we've got, the giant epic budget, it would never go to Jason Momoa, but I'd really like to see him play the wide-eyed aloofness of Pog. And maybe he'd be in the running, because I think it might be a little bit on brand for Dave Bautista right now. But it would have to be somebody who's
big green guy.
Yeah, big green guy who doesn't understand what's happening around him. Oh my God, am I just playing drag? You know what? I'm really glad tonight's section happened, so I can change my character entirely from here on out. I need a shake up. Yeah, I think I just think Jason Momoa would be the ideal. I don't know if you could convince him to go bald.
Yeah.
But as soon as I put Jason,
he does have glorious hair.
Does so, and it's just not fair. But as soon as his name would get attached, it would wind up going to the Rocks anyway. So, that's where that winds up. Roman Reigns, not to just keep listing wrestling people, Roman Reigns would be an interesting option because he rocks a mean top knot. So, there
you go.
Just buzz the sides down. Good question.
I think one of the freeing things about the kind of character you're playing is that the only thing you've got to think about is size, and presence. Does this person have the right presence? Because of course, Pog's green, so we can turn anybody green. It's not doesn't matter, and so we don't have to consider that as much. And I think that's cool, and freeing.
Gives options.
Yes. Laura would like to know, what does Pip think of the ocelot?
I honestly, I think that Pip and the Ocelot probably also get along great, and not just because it's wrong word maybe, familiar with Pog, and so loving and accepting, but and so that would draw him to the Ocelot. But as a street kid, it's probably got a pretty good natural sense with feral cats, and a pretty good history. So I imagine Pip has snuck a fair amount of bacon to the Ocelot out in the Grove. So yeah, I'm going to say he probably thinks very highly.
And to that point, Emily would like to know, how does Pip like his bacon?
Yes. He likes it quite a bit. I know the question is, how do you like it cooked? But I don't think we've passed we're not even like 8 months into the school existing, right? Like it's
right. It is about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still very much the street urchin. For me, when I think of Pip on the daily, he's still very much the putting a couple extra slices in his pocket because he knows that they're telling him he's getting dinner.
Right.
But until dinner shows up, he's not necessarily going to believe it.
Yeah.
And so, if he had a preference, I would probably say he likes it soft because it's going in his pocket and he doesn't want it to just crumble into salad bacon bits. So,
man, I can tell you from familiarity that the food stashing thing lasts a long time.
Yeah.
With kids that have been through that. Like it's a long time thing. So yeah, I would definitely expect that Pip is probably still stashing food.
I really think that under
hopefully he's not stashing bacon, because that
it's got a shelf life.
That's got No,
I think, and there's something that I've put too much thought into it, because as we've discussed before, I have found myself incarcerated. There is that tendency to keep as much of what you can get your hands on for as long as you can keep it around. And so that's what I think of. Pip's probably got quite a few apples under the pillow. Like the together end of the pillowcase has probably got quite a bit of produce that gets snacked on at night and replaced with whatever's out in the morning. But yeah, he's ready to just live out of the pillowcase for a day or two if everything goes wrong at the school.
Man, after the recent episode, that's different. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Now that
I couldn't do it. I almost made it through that whole sentence. No, that's too mean. That's too mean.
You guys are really not going to believe this episode, though. Like, the amount of stunned silence that you're going to have to edit out of that episode is just wild.
Well, there's definitely several bits of me going, what happens now?
Yeah, for real. The least spoilery spoiler is that when we got done recording, Philip said, "Let me show you another map we didn't get to use."
Oh man, this is a good session. I was not prepared for it.
I'm looking
forward to that. That's going to be a good watch party.
I'm terrified.
It's going to be fun. Well, okay. Probably surprising no one, we are not likely to have a Khyber Shards answers next week. For next Thursday, which is our usual recording day, be Thanksgiving. And so people will be traveling, and so we won't have one drop on Black Friday, most likely. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Khyber Shards answers. Thank you all so much for these questions. We really have a delightful time answering them. And if you'd like to get in touch with us and submit questions, you can do that either in comments or over on our Discord, which you can find in the description below, along with a link to Colin at Sorry BTR. The O is a 0. And to the Geek Pantheon YouTube channel, where you will find Eric posting a smorgasbord of TTRPG content.
Nerdery abounds.
Nerdery doth abound. In the meantime, we'll have a new episode of Khyber Shards this Monday, new Khyber Shards answers in a couple of weeks on Friday. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.
Happy Thanksgiving.